Well, today you got a treat. You got the triple threat. Hi, I'm Melba Pearson, also known as the Resident Legal Diva, and I'm here with Kelly Hyman and Dina Dahl, and we're going to talk to you about Big Brother watching you hard. Okay. So it's been released that ICE has contracted to get some intense tech to be able to spy on the masses. So this comes about with a company called Penlink, which will allow ICE agents to compile, process, and validate billions of daily local signals from hundreds of millions of mobile devices. So basically, they're scraping your mobile devices and figuring out where you're at and who you're with. This technology also has advanced facial search, advanced face detection. So again, we're going past the, who knows who, maybe I didn't text this person, whatever. They're literally capturing your likeness and being able to place you in certain areas, which again, this is about your privacy and your ability to freely associate, right? First Amendment. So, but I'm going to pause there and pivot to my lovely, lovely friends here. Tell me your thoughts on kind of the state of play in terms of privacy and now these sweeping new powers that ICE has through this technology they've been able to obtain.
They're very disconcerting. Makes you think, is Big Brother watching you? Yes, potentially it actually is. And so from the standpoint of protecting your whereabouts, protecting your rights, you always think about like the law, and people have fundamental rights, that people have certain rights and certain freedoms. And so with this information, it's very disconcerting of what are we giving up, or how is that lessening our freedom? Most people can agree that our country, people have certain rights under the Constitution, the First Amendment, you have free speech. But the fact that this could potentially harm our rights should make everyone really aware.
Yeah. Dina, what do you think?
Well, I think that this funding bill, and Democrats seem to all be on the same page to not fund ICE, is just the bare minimum, because we have George Bush and the Patriot Act really to thank for most of this. We need to, as a country, be willing to stop allowing our government to spy on us. And this is, I think, coming up obviously because of ICE, but since the Patriot Act, we've been having to deal with this. We also know, just from what ICE has been saying on the streets, that they are collecting information about people who are exercising their First Amendment rights and recording them. They're taking pictures of their license plate and saying that they are creating a database of it. So the bare minimum at this point is to stop funding. They need to restrict their ability to gather information, because we have heard from Trump and the others, they plan on going after what they call domestic terrorists, which, as we see in real time, they're calling everybody domestic terrorists, which means they're going after everybody. And I know we're going to get into TikTok as well. Did you want to jump on that, or you want me to jump into TikTok?
Well, let's jump into TikTok. But before we do that, I just want to share a little bit more so folks understand the gravity of what we're discussing. So there's a company that was called Cobwebs, and they created another tech called Tangles. Now, the people that created this, they were former members of Israeli elite cyber intelligence. And they were kicked off Meta back in 2021 because apparently their tech was being used to snoop on activists and opposition politicians in Hong Kong and Mexico. And also ICE is now testing out another tool called Ventel. And their creators were accused back in 2024 by the Federal Trade Commission of unlawfully tracking and selling sensitive location data, including information about mobile users' visits to health-related locations and places of worship.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, Handmaid's Tale.
Yeah,
Dina, back to you.
definitely. Yes, exactly. I mean, the Project 2025. I mean, we just saw their latest thing, getting rid of IVF, birth control, definitely Handmaid's Tale. And this is why when people, there's phone numbers going around, calling the phone number to call your congressperson to tell them about not funding. This you can add now too. We need to also stop ICE's ability to have this surveillance state.
For sure. For sure. So let's pivot to TikTok because big news, deal has been reached. It's no longer in quote unquote Chinese hands, but now whose hands are they in is the question, and the devil's in the details. So, Dina, I'm going to pivot back to you on this. And then Kelly, I want to come to you after because I have a lot of questions and concerns, and I have deleted my app, and I'll tell y'all why after we hear from both of you. So Dina, then Kelly.
I mean, I've talked about TikTok a long time. I was against the bill that even went forward trying to get this out of Chinese hands. A ranking Democrat on the committee, I said there was no evidence of any Chinese interference with our communication, whether or not it was because government doesn't like the fact that social media is not a top-down controlled media, whatever. This is where we are at. Unfortunately, somehow they passed the bill to allow Trump to decide whether or not TikTok gets sold. And of course, he decided to allow it to get sold to his billionaire friend, Larry Ellison, who promptly has put things into place. A lot of commentators over the weekend were talking about how their political speech was depressed. Maybe some of that has gotten fixed. I think we can almost certainly know that is going to be different. Now, the privacy, you could just go, I went on my own TikTok account and when you see the privacy thing, this is what it says. It says that these are the things that they are telling you they are going to be collecting about you. They are going to be collecting information about your racial or ethnic origin, national origin, religious beliefs, mental or physical health diagnosis, sexual life or sexual orientation, status as transgender or non-binary, citizenship or immigration status, or financial information. That's some scary stuff. And here's the thing is, social media is this amazing, very democratic format for people to have conversations, to talk to each other, right? Like that's the best use of social media is we get to have conversations that we care about mental health, about politics, about sexual orientation. And because of the fact that now these social media companies are being held in hands of like this one man, right? Elon Musk or Zuckerberg, and now Larry Ellison, the vast amounts of information they are collecting and controlling. And do you really think this pro-Trump person is going to be using that information in a way that we are going to like? I mean, that's the scary part about it. And also against activism in general, too. I mean, they have already come out and said that they plan on changing some of the terms. I think Zionism now is going to be considered a hate term on that platform. So, I mean, we are seeing in the streets, ICE agents not allow people to exercise their First Amendment rights. And now we have this really powerful data collection tool as well as a conversation tool in the hands of somebody that, frankly, I do not trust.
Kelly, what are your thoughts on this? Because I know it scared the bejesus out of me that I ran right to my phone, but yeah, weigh in on your thoughts.
I was very concerned. And so I went online to try and figure out how I could opt out or change my privacy settings in order to minimize as much as possible the issue. That was the first thing that I thought to do. But then secondly, I also thought about all of these different lawsuits that are going on in regards to social media. Now, there was a class action lawsuit that was filed about people talking and that information being kept and stored. But there's also a case out in California that is going to go to trial against different social media platforms in regards to young children in the way in which they design the platform, that it was addictive, kind of like opioids or tobacco. So you think about it from two standpoints. Not only are they allegedly taking all your information, storing all that information, and then using that information to make sure that they know what you're saying, even though you don't give permission. And then also from the standpoint of young children, that it's so addictive that it's harming them. It makes you think at times like, all right, I'm going to take a break and delete everything. But it's hard to connect with people nowadays on social, without social media, to check in, to see how they're doing, seeing what's going on in their life. So it's a double-edged sword, to say the least.
And, just to jump in just about another, so you can speak on this too, Melba, because Newsom made a post yesterday saying that he's planning on investigating whether or not TikTok is now violating state law by censoring Trump critical content. So we can trust at least Newsom and Attorney General Rob Bonta there are going to hopefully, at least look into that.
Yeah, and I believe that the privacy laws that are governing this new iteration of TikTok are out of California. So that would definitely give them the power and the scope to be able to hopefully hold them accountable if the investigation reveals that there has been trampling of First Amendment rights. But my concern, and the reason why I deleted the app, is that even if you opt out of all of those settings, here's the thing. The app is still on your phone. It still has access to your microphone. It still has access to your camera. It can still have access to other data that's in your phone. Now, it's not the whole, like, it's going to go read your emails or anything like that, but it's one of those things that, could they remotely turn on your camera? Remotely turn on your microphone? Eavesdrop on conversations? Because we all joke about, oh yeah, I know my phone's listening to me because I just talk about a suitcase, and all of a sudden my social media feed has like every single Away, Noble, Samsonite, just like all shows on the feed. So we already joke about that. But now we're in a situation that's deadly serious. And if we're all out here saying, listen, I don't support what ICE is doing, or I believe that women have the right to choose, or I believe that people should identify however they see fit and should be called by the pronouns that they want, or whatever. I say something like that. Is the repercussion now going to be, oh, now we're tracking you and we're watching who you interact with? And now are those people going to be at risk as a result of speaking out, right? So this is what's so deeply concerning. And, I'm with you, Kelly, on the whole, we're in a digital world. Like, this isn't, and I'm a huge Marvel person, Iron Man, hello. But and you notice Tony Stark, he has a flip phone. And there's a reason why. He has a fabulous computer in his house in like a bunker. But when he's running the streets in and out of his Iron Man suit, he's using a flip phone. So I feel like, I know we're not there. I don't want to be that like consumer cellular lady, but you start to think about, what are we sacrificing and how can we best protect ourselves, our data, our likeness, all of that from our own government. It's kind of crazy.
Well, this is why we need more laws. And to your point, California just passed very extensive privacy laws, but the federal government can do more. And we do probably need to break up some of these social media companies, talk about a monopoly. It's scary to think that somehow we are more scared about this new owner than China, but perhaps this is where we're at. But there are things, we are not helpless. It may feel like that, but we're not helpless. And we can create this. But we wanted to make sure everybody was aware, because these are not being talked about enough. The TikTok is being talked about, but Melba, what you brought up about the ICE and the surveillance, I'm not hearing in mainstream media. And this is a point too why independent reporting is so important, because we have to get the word out. As much as they're trying to control the information, we have to keep pushing it out, because look, it made a difference in Minnesota. The propaganda machine immediately calling him, Alex Purdy, a domestic terrorist and he had a gun, was countered so effectively through pro-democracy outlets like Midas Touch and Legal AF, like just flooded the zone, that within 48 hours, Trump is having to backtrack. That is a testament to the people on the ground in Minnesota. Like, hats out to all of those really brave protesters who continue to speak out despite ICE murdering people at will in their state. And those of us in social media and online, outrage and speaking out, it does make a difference. We have to continue to do it. And at the same time, we have to make sure that the people with power and money don't consolidate that in a way to tear down our democracy.
And that's why it's so important to get out and vote this year and make sure that you're registered. It's never too early to check, to make sure that you're registered and let your voice be heard in the ballot box.
And that's where we're going to leave it. All power to the people. And we keep forgetting that because these are public servants who work for us. It's our tax dollars that paid their salary. We need to hold them accountable. When you got a bad employee, you fire them. And that's what we do at the ballot box. We hire and fire. So people, we got to use our power, right?
Absolutely. And primaries are coming up. This is the time. If you're not happy with how your incumbent is, you can look at somebody else. This is the race. It's not just November. Look back, do some research, find out who's running in your area, find out if there's an up and comer that you really like, have a conversation with them. But these primaries are just as important as the midterm if we care about putting people in office who we think reflect us.
Exactly. Well, that concludes our first, hopefully our first of many, triple threats. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to Legal AF for all things at the intersection of law and politics. I'm Melba Pearson, also known as the Resident Legal Diva. That's Kelly Hyman, and that's Dina Dahl. And we are the Triple Threat Women Power Edition. Take good care and see you next time. Bye.
In collaboration with the Midas Touch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories at the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.